Okay, so I'm Cynthia, and I am the host of the reality series CPS Horror Stories. I am not an attorney or a social worker, but I am a mother who had her children kidnapped by Child Protective Services in 2016, and after 2 years of fighting, I was given back my parental rights. Each of the families that I interview have a horrific story that do need to be heard by others to understand the devastation and corruption done by the Department of Child Protective Services. You can still hear me okay, correct?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so make no mistake, children removals have very little to do with protecting kids anymore. Instead, billions of dollars in the government contract an ever-growing army of highly paid caseworkers seems to be the main objective of this heartbreaking epidemic of government-sanctioned kidnapping. Many children are taken from fit and loving parents and solely based upon feelings and false allegations reported anonymously to a hotline, or as a result of a caseworker's own personal judgment, or even by someone with a vendetta against you. Families are coerced into participating by intimidation and the threat of losing their children. So, where'd you go? Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, it cut out. Like, I don't have view of you anymore on your camera.
I still have my camera on.
Okay, there we go. So, children are drugged and restrained, put into restraint jackets, and some are sexually, physically, and emotionally abused. So don't be a victim of losing your children forever. Be educated, be wise, and be prepared for what is to come if CPS shows up in your life. So today I'm interviewing Shay. Can you introduce yourself for me, Shay?
Yes, I'm Shay, and I am a mother of 6. 2 of my children back in 2015 were subject to a CPS report.
Hold on,
and
your camera is off. Okay, there we go.
Oh, sorry. They were taken in 2016 in April by CPS, saying that I was on drugs, and I was actually on prescription medication at the time. And now I have them back. I've had them back for about 2 years now, but court ordered I've had them back for a year and a half. And my daughter has mental issues now from it because she was neglected the whole entire time. They placed them with my mother.
I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but the camera, the lighting, it's got all sun and...
Sorry.
That's okay.
Is that better?
Yes, but maybe walk the other way. Let me see.
I'm about to walk a different way now.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's good. Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Did CPS ever come into your life when you were a child or just as an adult?
Just as an adult, I've had them in my life. They were never in my life when I was a kid. I was also abused as a kid, but CPS never showed up to do anything about the abuse that I went through by the hands of my own mother that neglected my daughter.
Well, let's start with day one. Who made the accusation and how did CPS show up?
Someone made the accusation that I body slammed my son 5 feet into a wall, and there was no holes in my wall at all. And they also said my name wrong and had the wrong address to where I lived at the time. And how I knew this is because CPS actually asked me if my name was what it was, and I was like, that's not even close. And then they asked me what my kids' names were, and they're like, well, those are the kids that are on the CPS report. And I'm like, well, whoever reported was wrong because I didn't throw my son into the wall and there's no hole. And it went on from there. And they never closed that case. They turned it into a different case, a case of neglect instead. Apparently I was neglecting them emotionally and mentally, and that wasn't even the case.
The sun is doing that thing again to your camera. Is there a way
Better?
we can, yeah, but the walking just makes it to where every angle the sun hits and then it reflects and it, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm about to be in shade here in a second.
Okay. So, where did they come to? Your house?
Yeah, they came to my house after they seen me at the Department of Social Services recertifying for my food stamps and stuff that I got for the kids.
So they came with a social worker?
They came with a social worker the first day, and the cops didn't even come. The first ever case that I've ever had was back in 2006, and they had a cop with them that time. Apparently, the cops aren't allowed to do CPS cases anymore here in the county that I live in.
What state do you live in?
New York.
Okay. So they show up at your house and then they say what? Hey, there's an accusation and this is what it is?
Yep.
How many kids
And it
do you
wasn't,
have?
I had 5 at the time. I have 6 now.
Wow.
Yeah, my daughter was 2 when she was taken, and my son wasn't even 3 yet. Or he was 3, about to be 4. Because he's 8 now.
Wow. So tell me what happened then.
Well, it was a long case. They showed up in July, 5 years ago, this month. And they made the accusations that somebody else said that I threw my son, which wasn't the case. And then after that, it went on to me neglecting my kids and allowing my kids to fight and do what kids normally do, which is argue and...
Did they take your kids the first day that they showed up or no?
Not the first day. They waited all the way until April of 2016 to take the kids.
So basically the following year, correct?
Yep. They waited until April 19th, 2016 to take my kids and place them with my mother. They even made me call my mother and tell her that she needed to come and get them or they were going in foster care.
Wow.
Yeah.
When was your first court hearing?
My first court hearing wasn't until May.
Okay, and what happened then?
The affidavit against me said that I failed to mentally and emotionally have a connection with my kids. It said I failed at that, that I had no connection with them. And
what does that even mean to you? Just curious when they said that.
It means that I had I wasn't emotional or anything when they left. I was very much emotional. I was crying and screaming at the CPS worker. And how ironic is the CPS worker, I went to school with her. She graduated a year ahead of me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So how was it the day that they took your kids? That they came in and said, we're taking them now?
They came in unannounced, knowing that I had court for my son, because me and his father were going to court for visitation. And they came, and my fiance, which I'm still with, I've been with him for almost 6 years in February, he was at the house and answered the door with my daughter. And they expected me to have my daughter at court with me. They asked him to do a drug test, refused to leave my house when I got back. Completely refused. Then they wanted me to do a drug test. I said no, because the drug test was pretty much supposed to happen a different day, and they knew I had court the same day that they showed up, because their lawyer was in the courtroom.
Huh. So then what happened?
Right after they forced me to do a drug test, because they followed me into the bathroom with my daughter, they took both my kids. They made me go to the school to pick my one son up and take them up to my grandmother's and wait for my mom. And I wasn't allowed to wait there with them. I had to leave.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old were the kids when this happened?
My daughter was 2 and my son was 3 when this happened. And he was in Head Start.
So you brought them to your mom's to wait for her to get home, and
I actually had to pick my grandmother up. My grandmother lives in the same county as I do. My mom lives in a different county, 2.5 hours away.
wow.
Yeah, so they moved my kids to a different county so I couldn't see them. Placed the order of protection against me when I went to court in May, saying that I couldn't be alone with them at all. I had to be monitored at all times with them. And they updated the order of protection at the third court hearing, which was in October of 2017. Or no, October 2016, not 2017, because it was up in 2017, the year of
Right.
the protection order. And then my counselor is the one that actually noticed that the year was up back in 2018. So she told me to go ahead and file for custody of my kids.
Okay.
And I didn't get them back until 2019, but they've been living with me since 2018.
Wow.
And there was a recent CPS.
Go ahead.
There was a recent CPS case in 2018 where they accused me, my fiance, and my mother of cooking meth, dealing meth, and doing meth. And it was all false. And then they also had me drug tested. I was pregnant with my youngest, my almost 2-year-old as of next month. I was pregnant with her, and they had me do drug test after drug test twice a month, 2 to 3 times a month back in 2018.
They accused me of doing drugs too, but I've never touched a drug, and I had to do drug testing for a year.
I had to do drug testing constantly for 2 years. 2 years I had to do drug testing to show them that I wasn't on anything.
Did you ever do
when
anything?
I did try drugs when I was younger, when I was way younger. And I was on medication. I was on Adderall for ADHD, which I do have ADHD. I have not been on medication, and I haven't touched pot because I have issues with my wrist, a lot of pain in my wrist and everything. I haven't touched that in 5 years this October.
Wow. So what all besides the drug testing was in your case plan? Did you have to go to parenting classes and everything?
They wanted me to do parenting classes, but the teacher that wanted to do the parenting classes, she knew me and knew my parenting techniques, and she goes, "You don't need these classes." So she signed me out of parenting classes as I passed.
Cool. So, you mentioned them having to be with your mom. Why was that such a hard thing?
Because my mom was the one that abused me as a kid.
What kind of abuse?
And she would hit me, pull my hair. There was other things that she did to my siblings. She stabbed my sister in the face with a fork during dinner one time. And she still abused me into my adulthood. She's actually attacked me 3 times in the past 2 years that I've had my kids back. I stood my ground the last time. Didn't let her get the best of me like she did the other times. So I was more worried about my kids than anything else.
Yeah. Did she do any type of abuse to the kids?
She neglected my daughter the whole entire time that she was there.
Did she do anything physical?
They would whip my kids with switches if they did anything wrong and if they didn't listen. I heard this from my nephew and my brother and several other people.
That's crazy. So CPS lets them go from one good house to a house where they're getting abused.
Right. And my daughter's now got mental health issues from what happened to her. She's got PTSD from trauma, and she's got reactive attachment disorder and defiancy disorder, along with the fact that she's got ADHD and anxiety. Her anxiety stems from her PTSD. And she's on medication for her anxiety right now. She was on medication for not being able to sleep at night, but she's able to sleep now because she had night terrors from the whole thing.
Yep. Wow.
My phone's about to die, but we can finish the interview when I get back to my house if you want.
Okay.